Episode 7 opens with Kafka's janitorial co-workers watching from a distance as Kafka and the defense force battle a Honju. They wonder about the new recruit introduced earlier. This recruit suddenly attacks Iharu with a projectile and transforms, revealing himself as the same Kaiju that attacked Kikoru during the selection exam. The Kaiju declares his intention to capture one of them. Reno attempts to contact a platoon officer but fails. The Kaiju explains why communication is impossible and tries to attack Reno. Reno narrowly avoids serious injury by recalling advice Kikoru shared with him and Kafka. Reno urges Iharu to leave and get backup. As Iharu runs for help, he reflects on Hoshina's teachings about exceeding one's combat limitations. Inspired by Reno's growth, Iharu returns to assist Reno, preventing a new attack from the Kaiju. Determined to be a hero rather than a victim, Iharu stands his ground. The Kaiju tells them that escape is impossible unless they defeat him. Despite their efforts, the Kaiju gravely injures Reno. Elsewhere, Ikaruga informs Hoshina they've lost contact with Iharu and Reno. Kikoru arrives and tells Kafka the intelligent Kaiju fighting Reno and Iharu is nearby. The Kaiju continues to torment Reno. Just as the Kaiju is about to deliver a fatal blow, Kafka arrives in his Kaiju form and deletes the Kaiju. Kafka places Reno in a safe spot. Though Reno regrets not being strong enough, he prays for Kafka's success. The Kaiju reattaches his head and tests a projectile on Kafka, deciding to fight at full power to capture him. Kafka relentlessly beats the Kaiju, who is shocked by Kafka's strength. Kafka notices the Kaiju's core is exposed, but Defense Force troops arrive and aim their weapons at Kafka. After Kikoru defeats a Yoju, she recalls Kafka's plan to track down Reno and Iharu. Kafka believes he can sense the Kaiju's location, despite technical issues. He transforms and tells Kikoru to manage the situation. News spreads that Kaiju No. 8 is on the battlefield. Hoshina orders a neutralization team to engage. The Kaiju, which Kafka licked up, regenerates and claims to have learned Kafka's abilities. He vows to eliminate Kafka next time and attacks 2 Defense Force troops, but Kafka protects them and the Kaiju disappears. Kafka retreats to an alley where Hoshina confronts him. Hoshina announces he has located Kaiju No. 8 and prepares to fight, vowing to exterminate him. Episode 8 starts with Hoshina battling Kafka. Kafka is stunned by Hoshina's incredible skills. Hoshina, unaware that Kaiju No. 8 is Kafka, questions Kafka's fortitude level and why this fight feels off. Kafka manages to deflect Hoshina's attack and escapes. Hoshina reports to Mina and others that Kaiju No. 8 escaped. Kafka meets up with Kikoru and collapses, apologizing for letting Kaiju No. 9 get away. Kikoru tells him not to worry and to focus on himself. Mina later asks Hoshina about his fight with Kaiju No. 8. Hoshina thinks this Kaiju is strong, but not bloodthirsty. Mina decides to focus on their current situation instead. Ikaruga contacts Mina and Hoshina, revealing that the Kaiju that attacked Iharu and Reno is Kaiju No. 9, who can take human form. Kaiju No. 9 is then seen wandering a highway. He devours a bystander, steals his car, and listens to a news broadcast about his actions. His main concern is figuring out how to end Kaiju No. 8 and plans to hide for now. Kafka, Iharu, Reno, and Kikoru discuss the battles with Kaiju No. 9 and Kaiju No. 8. Iharu and Reno then go to a Defense Force party celebrating their first mission. Kafka is confused when chefs arrive with fancy meals, organized by Haruichi, heir to Izumo Technologies. Hoshina starts the party, and everyone mingles. He tells Reno to observe everyone, noting their dissatisfaction with their mission performance. Haruichi talks to Dojima, a head chef, about his father and the special meal prepared for the group. Hoshina tells Kafka he's being promoted to an officer role for his impressive actions during the mission. Everyone congratulates Kafka. Haruichi's friend expresses his wish to keep everyone safe. Kafka later meets with Mina, who officially promotes him. She tells Kafka it will take time to fulfill his promise to her. Kafka reassures her. Mina mentions an HQ meeting about Kaiju No. 8 and Kaiju No. 9 and advises Kafka to handle paperwork with Hoshina, hoping he meets expectations. Kafka goes to the library and sees Hoshina training. Hoshina is planning how to defeat Kaiju No. 8 next time. Kafka vows to help, but Hoshina mocks him. The episode ends with several wyvern Kaiju flying, directed by a new humanoid Kaiju to descend. Episode 9 kicks off with Hoshina delving into research on Kaiju No. 8. Meanwhile, Kafka is determined not to disappoint Hoshina. Just before before Kafka heads to his bedroom for some rest, multiple meteors crash into several bases, signaling the start of a new crisis. Okanogi quickly informs Hoshina of the situation. Hoshina suits up and orders all available Defense Force troops to battle stations, directing them to lure any Kaiju or Hanju to the training area. During the ensuing battle, Kafka contacts Hoshina, noting that it's unusual for Wyvern-type Kaiju to travel in packs. Hoshina then spots a figure commanding the Wyverns with an undisclosed objective, indicating a strategic threat. Okanogi alerts Hoshina that the sentient Kaiju before him has a high fortitude level, classifying it as a Daikaiju level threat. Hoshina instructs Ikaruga to focus on fighting the Yoju. However, before Hoshina can relay his full plan, the Daikaiju launches a sudden attack. As Hoshina engages in battle with the Daikaiju, Kafka advises Reno and the others to target the Wyvern's backs, recognizing a potential weak point. The team struggles against the Wyvern's tough armor until Kikoru arrives wielding her formidable battle axe. She uses it to shatter one Wyvern's armor and damage its core, turning the tide of the battle. This scene transitions into a flashback at the base's underground weapon storage room, where Kikoru is presented her battle axe, specifically designed to match her combat prowess. Mina explains that although they usually reserve such weapons for captains, the surge in Kaiju numbers and fortitude levels necessitated equipping Kikoru, the third highest ranking Defense Force officer, with this special weapon. Back in the present, Kikoru continues to wreak havoc on the Wyverns with her battle axe. Reno protects Kikoru from a surprise attack, earning her gratitude and acceptance of his help in defeating the Wyverns. Inspired by their feats, the other officers are motivated to fight harder, bolstered by their comrades' successes. Meanwhile, Hoshina lures the Daikaiju to the training area. The Daikaiju, relishing the fight, declares its intent to consume Hoshina to gain more strength. Hoshina reassures Okanogi not to worry, vowing to go all out against the Daikaiju. Elsewhere, Kafka rescues a Defense Force member named Minase from a Wyvern. Reno and Kikoru arrive to engage the Wyvern, with Kikoru instructing Kafka to evacuate the wounded, while Reno encourages him to trust his fellow officers. Okanogi announces that higher-ranking officers have joined the battle. Each officer reports their progress on the battlefield. Kafka and Minas focus on helping the wounded, ensuring their safety amidst the chaos. On the training grounds, Hoshina continues to impress the Daikaiju with his combat skills, showcasing his prowess. Eventually, the Daikaiju morphs into a larger form and emits a deadly toxin, shocking Hoshina. Fortunately, Hoshina has a mask to protect himself from the toxin. The Daikaiju, now in a more powerful form, roars menacingly, escalating the threat level. The episode concludes with Okanogi informing Hoshina that the Daikaiju's fortitude level has reached 9, indicating an unprecedented challenge ahead for the Defense Force. Episode 10 kicks off with the sentient Kaiju, designated Kaiju No. 10, continuing his intense battle with Hoshina. Hoshina pushes himself to his maximum output, but Kaiju No. 10 manages to overpower him. A brief flashback reveals a man advising Hoshina to abandon his dream of joining the Defense Force. Back in the present, Hoshina reassures his ally through a device that he is still capable of fighting. However, Hoshina is aware internally that he has lost his maximum release and is uncertain about how to defeat Kaiju No. 10. While he ponders this, Okanogi updates him on the current status of the battlefield. Despite his disadvantage, Hoshina continues to engage Kaiju No. 10. The flashbacks continue, showing the same man persistently telling Hoshina to give up, citing his incompatibility with guns and the irrelevance of his exceptional swordsmanship in the Kaiju era. Time passes, and Hoshina anticipates that Mina, like others before her, will tell him to give up. Set before his official recruitment into the Defense Force, Mina instead surprises him by asking him to join, expressing her reliance on his sword skills. With this memory as motivation, Hoshina gives his all against Kaiju No. 10 in the present. Despite his efforts, Kaiju No. 10 overwhelms Hoshina further, prompting Kafka to rush to his aid. However, Mina arrives first and engages Kaiju No. 10. During Mina's battle, Okanogi informs her of Kaiju No. 10's core location. Hoshina attempts to assist Mina by targeting Kaiju No. 10's ligaments, defense, and Kikoru soon joins him. Despite reaching her limit, Kikoru's efforts, combined with the supporting troops, help Mina. Utilizing her 96% combat power, Mina delivers a powerful attack, ultimately defeating Kaiju No. 10 and securing victory for her team. Following the battle, the team regroups. Okanogi suggests that Mina and the others return to the base to rest. Some troops express their intent to exterminate the remaining Yoju. As they prepare for this next task, Kafka and others notice something strange overhead. Okanogi identifies it as a Yoju-themed bomb formed by the Yoju coming together. With no other option, Kafka transforms into Kaiju No. 8 and rushes to intercept the bomb. He reflects on the consequences of his actions, but is resolved to complete the task. Kafka leaps into the air, propelling the Yoju bomb skyward before crashing back down. Mina instructs everyone to ready their shields as the bomb explodes, minimizing the battlefield damage. In the aftermath, Kafka stands apart as Mina and her troops approach him. Mina points a gun at Kafka, announcing her intention to take him into custody, closing the episode on a tense note. Episode 11 begins with Keiji, the Defense Force's deputy director, chatting about Kafka with other personnel. They discuss several ideas of how they should use Kafka's Kaiju DNA. However, Isao, the Defense Force's director general, and Kikoru's father insist they have the 3rd Division hand Kafka over to them. Next, these gentlemen observe Kafka from behind a glass. Kafka's currently imprisoned. He recalls Kikoru saying if they capture Kafka, they'll likely turn his body parts into weapons. Mina, Hoshina, and several troops arrive to collect Kafka and bring him to headquarters. Kafka notices his friends standing on the sidelines and wonders if it's truly over for him. Before Kafka enters the aircraft, Reno steps out of line and tells Kafka that he knows he'll return to the Defense Force to fight by his side. Then, the aircraft closes. Kafka realizes he's alone with Mina. Mina tells them no cameras are filming them in this area. She shares her honest opinion with Kafka regarding what he did during the Kaiju No. 10 debacle. Moreover, Mina tells Kafka she's gathering evidence to prove Kafka is a human. Mina hopes this will save Kafka and informs him that no one in the 3rd Division views him negatively. Next, Mina asks Kafka to sit in a specific area, informing him that he'll be transferred soon. They both depart. Kafka gets contained at the Ariake Maritime Base. Several days pass. Iru and the others reflect on Kafka's situation. Some want to save him, but another informs everyone that the Neutralization Bureau will decide Kafka's fate. Next, Hoshina and another ally discuss Kafka. Hoshina wants Kafka back for rematch purposes. Next, Kikoru visits Isao in his office and asks him not to eliminate Kafka. Isao hands Kikoru a document containing Kafka's chest x-rays. Kikoru looks at the document and learns Kafka's growing a core, much like other kaiju she's fought. Isao argues Kafka is a kaiju and reminds Kikoru that a kaiju killed her mother. Before Kikoru leaves, she tells Isao that she still believes in Kafka. While Kafka undergoes more physical exams, Reno and the others report to Mina. Mina tells them they'll be temporarily transferring them to different divisions. She says they're doing this because the Tachikawa base was significantly damaged due to the recent rampage, also stating that the higher-ups argue more attacks will occur. Therefore, Mina and the others will train the most talented rookies from all the divisions. Mina ensures them that this plan was in the works before Kafka's arrest. Reno complies, leaving Iharu shocked. Later, Aoi meets with Haruichi on a rooftop. He tells Haruichi that he was trying to connect with someone who could help Kafka. Aoi reminds Haruichi that he doesn't want to lose anyone, including Kafka. Afterwards, Isao meets with Kafka and asks one of the workers to release Kafka. Isao shoots Kafka and grabs him seconds later. He places remnants of Kafka's blood inside a tube. Simultaneously, Isao doesn't view Kafka as human and says he'll remain a kaiju in his eyes. Kafka stands up and says he's not a kaiju. Isao has his men give him 2 mechanical arms. These arms were made from Kaiju No. 8's parts. Isao battles Kafka. Kafka chooses to partially transform into a kaiju. While he's battling Isao, Keiji shares some intel with Kikoru about Kaiju No. He says the beast was a prideful one, but they conquered it and turned its body parts into weapons. He says Isao's the only one who can use those specific weapons. Before Isao delivers the final blow, Kafka fully transforms and blocks Isao's assault. However, realizing something's off, Kafka learns he's no longer in control of his body. Then, the small kaiju that infected Kafka from episode 1 chats with Kafka. He demands Kafka to kill Isao. Kikoru pleads with Kafka to prove that he's a human to Isao. The episode ends with Kafka rushing toward Isao. Episode 12 begins with Rino and Iharu at the gym. Rino tells Iharu he knows Kafka will return, and this encourages Iharu to train harder. Then, the platoon leaders arrive and inform them that they will seal Kafka's fate today. Mina arrives in a conference room. Someone tells her that Isao is examining Kafka. This individual wants Mina to remain in this room until Isao finishes. Then, we return to observing the fight between Kafka and Isao. Kafka performs some new feats to hold his own against Isao, who's still using weapons made from his DNA to fight Kafka. Keiji informs Kikoru that Isao could have easily buried Kafka, but chose to turn him into a lab rat instead. Next, we return to Aoi and Haruichi on the rooftop. Aoi tells Haruichi he joined the defense force to save lives and didn't expect Kafka to save his. Haruichi is hesitant to look at Kafka the same way as before. Aoi tells Haruichi he should judge people based on their actions. Haruichi looks at his phone and notices his father's number. Haruichi yields and agrees with Aoi's stance on Kafka. Meanwhile, Kafka and Isao continue their brawl, where Kafka severely injures Isao. Keiji says, Kaiju No. 8's fortitude level is slowly increasing. Kafka is concerned that he may delete Isao. As Kaiju No. 8 continues to beat Isao down, Kikoru reflects on her promise to end Kafka if she sees him harming humanity. Kikoru calls out to Kafka, begging him to not go berserk. Kaiju No. 8 appears in front of Kafka and swallows him. While swimming inside Kaiju No. 8's stomach, Kafka sees a mirage of Mina. Mina tells him she'll always be waiting for him. This encourages Kafka to regain control over his body. Seconds before Kaiju No. 8 finishes Isao, Kafka strikes himself in the body and tells Isao that he's Kafka Hibino, not Kaiju No. 8. Kafka plummets to the ground. Before Isao's ally Narumi buries Kafka, Isao stops Narumi, calls the medics, and asks them to take Kaiju No. 8's remnants. He tells the medics that Kaiju No. 8's core is mildly damaged without elaborating. Isao, Keiji, and Mina meet at the base's conference room. Mina confirms she's known Kafka for a long time. However, Mina promises she didn't give Kafka special treatment. The higher-ups inform Mina they've made their decision. They state their testimony won't change Kaiju No. 8's fate. Mina says she wants to leave it to the specialists to determine if Kafka is a human or not. Nonetheless, Mina informs the higher-ups about her experience with Kafka as an officer. She relays details of Kafka's achievements during past fights. Mina recalls a moment between her and Kafka in the past. She tells the higher-ups that Kafka has a huge heart. Isao thanks Mina and asks her to return to her post. Later we see Kafka floating inside a water-like tube. He reflects on his mission to make kaijus pay. Moreover, Kafka says he'd rather end as a human than turn into a kaiju. Kafka wakes up in a hospital bed and Isao's sitting next to him. Isao says he doesn't plan to hurt Kafka. Kafka's glad Isao's alive. He asks Isao if he and the others plan to reinstate him. Isao says he convinced the council to let Kafka fight by their side. Then, we cut away to Isao's meeting with the others. Isao says he knows they can control Kafka. He also argues that it's possible a Kaiju No. 8 weapon won't be as useful as the kaiju itself. Isao asks Kafka to prove his worth, but Kafka's not happy that the council views him as a weapon. He vows to convince Isao and the others that he's an officer just like them. Meanwhile, Mina looks at her phone, smiles, and departs from the Ariake Maritime Base. Kikoru sits in an undisclosed room and receives a text from Mina that Kafka will be okay. Kikoru vows to get stronger. Aoi, Iharu, Rino, and the others receive the same text. Rino reminds Iharu that he knew Kafka would pull through. Hoshina and Okanogi discuss this new intel about Kafka. Hoshina argues they'll need to keep Kafka's kaiju essence under wraps, because it'll be bad if outside forces discover they're withholding a kaiju. While Kafka naps, we cut away to the monster sweeper building. A few workers are upset because someone newbie is defeating them at chess. We cut away to Kaiju No. reflecting on his victories over the humans at chess. Kaiju No. says he's close to reaching humanity on an intellectual level. Also, he's discovered the exploits surrounding the Defense Force's main base. He wants to retrieve Kaiju number 8 from the humans because he says this kaiju belongs to them. If you made it this far, comment on your favorite moment and subscribe for Season 2.